Well, good morning, everyone. Once again, welcome to another live this morning and hope you're having a great start to your day. We certainly are. And we are very, very, very appreciative of those who come on live with us every day. And thank you so much. And Andrea, you're numero uno. Mike from Norland, number 2. Janice from Brampton. Elena from New York, Sandy, Fergus Falls, Minnesota, Nativity, good morning, and Lynn from Aurora, and Beverly, New Brunswick, and who is that? Sue, how are you? Denise, Chatham, Rosa, Montreal, and Sylvia, good morning. Fran from Orangeville. And Georgie from Halifax, Nova Scotia. Brahim, what happened to you? Wendy from Markham, hello. Cecilia, Shediac, New Brunswick. Kathy, Port Perry. Donna from Park Hill. And Jeanette, hello. And Norma, Medicine Hat, Alberta. Rosalinda, Niagara Falls. Carrie from Nebraska. And Angel, Sturgeon Falls. Kevin from Oshawa. Bruno, how are you? And Andrea. And David. And Madeleine, Kippawa, Quebec. Elaine, St. John's, Newfoundland, how are you? Mariette, how are you? Bon matin. Caroline, sweet Caroline. John, how are you? And Margaret, and Francis, Andrea, how are you? Jeanette from our staff, good morning. Anne, how are you? Moncton, New Brunswick. Jeanette says hello. And Leela from Verner. And Irene, New Brunswick. Nicole, Magog, Quebec, bonjour. Deb, how are you? Sue, how are you? Or Sue just saying hello. I already said hello to her. Rita. Gary from sunny Bolton. Well, it's raining here in Sudbury. Karen. Kincardine. Sandy said, I missed this, Sandy. Nellie. Okay, a couple more, guys. Krista. How are you? Carol. Somewhere in the clouds. Jacques. Bon matin de Hearst. Cheryl. Me. Hey there, Doc McEwen, West Tennessee. Nancy said I forgot her again. Danny. Guys, it's not that I forget. It's that I can't see it. Wendy. Sometimes it goes by so fast. Hi, Catherine. And Donna. And Noeline. How are you from New Brunswick? Chantal from Sudbury. Barbara. And Marilyn. From Edmonton, Alberta, Melika. She went in the clouds. See, that's what happened, Melika. Betty. And Brahim says he loves us all. Do you love me too? Gloria. Edith. Guys, I hate to miss any of you. Monica, thank you for coming on. Dave, we appreciate you. And Wanda says, I missed her from Virginia. And Doc McEwen saying it's warm in West Tennessee. Well, you know, Rebecca, how are you? And Tim, he says, my finger hurts. Okay. Judy, from the clouds. Yeah, look, sometimes it just scrolls up there, guys. And I'm telling you, I just don't see it. Okay. So it's not like I missed it in a way. Okay. Yeah, I guess it is. I missed it. Okay, now guys, let's talk about a couple of things. Okay, a literary review of all research. Listen, looking at autism, and there's a direct link, very serious, and here's how the article, it says very serious and troubling. That was the article. the link between Tylenol and autism. And where they looked at all the research that was done on autism, and one of the connecting things that they saw was the use of Tylenol when the kids were really small. Okay? Not in the womb. Okay? The study said, no, not if mommy was taking Tylenol during your pregnancy, baby Tylenol. And the link to autism. Now, guys, I know this is controversial, okay? But I want to tell you what is not controversial, in my opinion, okay? I've said this for a long, long time. When you talk about autism, I always talk leaky gut, leaky brain, okay? Because I know there's connections with vaccines or whatever, but I always say, well, that's not the bottom line. The bottom line is the microbiome. And I've been saying this, guys. I said it on my radio show. I said it before that. I wrote it in books a long time ago. That because, and now autism is like, it's unreal. The research on, let me just see if I have some of the recent numbers on autism. Hold on a minute. I think I might have something here. Like, is it 1 out of 18 kids born in North America are autistic? Anyway, the numbers I'll get it exactly, guys. It's crazy. But here's what I want you to think about, okay? Because at the end of the day, like, what does acetaminophen do? What does Tylenol do? It affects the microbiome. Antibiotics, what do they do? It affects the microbiome. See, I always, for years, and you know where I come from because I talk about this all the time, is that antibiotics are the greatest thing since sliced bread in terms of medicine. Is there been any discovery in medicine that has been as successful as antibiotics have been? I don't think so. Saving millions and millions and millions of people's lives, antibiotics. But the double-edged sword of that is what it does to the microbiome. In 5 days, and again, this research is 40 years old. In 5 days, it wipes out all of your bacteria, your good bacteria. It kills the bad guys, but it kills the good guys. And really, we are so far advanced when it comes to the microbiome, meaning we don't know anything, but we know lots compared to what we used to know. When I talked about the dangers of antibiotics, the side effects, what did I know back then that today? But, you know, it was almost like I was a prophet. And I'm not a prophet nor the son of one. Okay? I'm not. But I talked about this a long, long time ago. You know, we're going to rue the day that we've overused antibiotics. We're going to rue the day. Because the side effects, it kills your good guys. You need good guys. Microbiome. It's an eco-forest. You just can't wipe out all a species and then expect everything to be normal. It'll change everything. That's what happened. And I am convinced, I have said this, that autism I was in a boardroom in downtown Toronto in I'm going to say 1980 or 79. And a colleague of mine was talking about autism. Honestly, guys, I didn't know what he was even talking about. What? He said, I got 2 boys. They're autistic. I said, what is that? And he went on in great detail to describe these poor canaries in the coal mine, his 2 sons. And I was all ears. It bothered me. I didn't even know what he was talking about. I said, what are you talking about? Guy, that's how little we knew about autism. I never heard of it before. And I'm sure it was around a little bit, but we didn't study it. We were just starting to study ADD and ADHD. We were just looking at behavior in kids, but autism, I didn't even know what it was. But I'll tell you, I never forgot that conversation. And I went into why. I'm a why guy. Why? Okay? And that was just the start of it. And then as the years progressed, and we get into the 1990s and the early 2000s, man, autism, it's so incredibly prevalent. And when I did my PhD, by the way, on chronic fatigue syndrome, I talked about this. Because in the research that we did, people who got chronic fatigue syndrome were on antibiotics for a good period of time. It was almost invariable. Childhood or later on, infections, a lot of them took antibiotics for acne as teenagers. And down the road, they got chronic fatigue syndrome. Guys, we did all these questionnaires for my thesis. I think that book is behind me somewhere. We actually had it published, okay? So if you look behind me here, where is it? Okay, there it is, see? Right behind me, see that? Okay, chronic fatigue syndrome, see that book? Not available anymore, sorry guys, that's a long time ago. Look at the guy, look at the picture, okay? If you don't believe in free radical damage, who is that guy? Okay. That was written a long time ago, but that came out of my thesis. That came out of my thesis, guys. But in there, I talked about the use of antibiotics and how it destroys the microbiome. And like I said, back then, knew nothing compared to what I know today. And then you get a review of all the studies that they can look at in autism. And this was very conclusive. Troubling, serious. The literary review of acetaminophen and the link between that and autism in the developing nervous system. Yeah, why? Leaky gut, leaky brain. And I saw a lot of autistic kids in the office. Never saw a case where there wasn't leaky gut. Never saw a case where there wasn't an invasion of the Trojan horse, fungus, candida. Never saw a case where I didn't see, because I used to test for this, the presence of heavy metals, such as mercury, lead, cadmium. We used to do a urine test, and it was always present. There was always heavy metals. How did that get in the body? Okay. How did it get in the body? How does it get transported up into the brain? Yeast, fungus, leaky gut. Guys, after I saw this, okay, I went around social media, mainstream media, any articles. I haven't seen it anywhere else. Yeah, no kidding. No kidding. You think that stuff is going to be popular? I don't think so. Okay? So you can get Tylenol over the counter. You can get children's Tylenol for colds and earaches and whatever, right? And I'm just telling you what this study said. It's a study looking at all the studies. And there's a link, they said. Well, it doesn't surprise me because I know what these over-the-counter meds, okay, there's somebody that has a headache. Look, I feel sorry. Look, I'm on your side. You get people with pain. I'm on your side, man. But please take a probiotic. Everybody and their dog should be taking probiotics. I've been saying it and saying it and saying it. Probiotics. When people didn't even know what I was talking about. Even in that book of chronic fatigue. Take a probiotic. Please. Multi-strain. Because you need to replace bacteria. Just living on the planet. Look at your planet. Excuse me. Look at your address. Okay? What does your postal code? Are you living on planet Earth? Yeah? You need a probiotic. I don't care who you are. We just live in that kind of a world. And if you think you can travel, with Elon Musk and go to Mars, well, maybe you don't need one then. But if you live on this planet, you need it. You need it. And who hasn't taken a Tylenol in their life? But you see, the kids are the canaries in the coal mine. That's what they are. I said that 40 years ago. Kids are the canaries in the coal mine. Fragile. And whatever affects leaky gut, whether it be an antibiotic or a non-steroidal anti-inflammatory, and they don't even classify Tylenol in that, but it's a painkiller that destroys your microbiome. But so does Aleve, and so does Advil, and so does ibuprofen, and you name it. It kills your friendly bacteria. When you drink diet soda, and we didn't know this. I think my dad was the first guy to ever drink a diet soda in the world. He used to drink Tab. Oh, I was 16 years old. My dad started drinking Tab. My word, that stuff was like urine. I said, Dad, what are you drinking? Anyway, but you know what we know about those artificial sweeteners now, like, Splenda and all the rest of them? They destroy your microbiome. They can create a dysbiosis in the body. We're learning so much about the gut. We're learning so much about the gut. Anyway, I thought it was interesting, not surprising. I'm glad they're flagging this stuff now, and maybe there'll be changes. I'm not holding my breath. I'm not holding my breath. You know what? In the hospital, they should be giving babies. Well, if they come down the birth canal, they get a lot of microbiome, They get a lot of microbiome. And what we talked about this in the past, that, even autistic kids, I mean, generally a lot of them were C-sections. Again, missing out on, look, sometimes, C-sections can save a baby's life, can save mama's life. I understand that. But even the College of, I remember this probably 10 years ago because I brought it up on more than that on my radio show. The College of Physicians and Surgeons in our province in Ontario here told the physicians, gynecologists, and the obstetricians and that, hey, stop doing C-sections unless absolutely necessary. I was surprised that they said it. And by the way, the College of Physicians, where I am in Ontario, but it's happened all over Canada, and I'm sure in the United States, you know what? Telling physicians, would you quit using antibiotics when they're not needed? And a lot of physicians don't get the memo. They hand that stuff out like candy. And the problem is, well, it's a couple of fold. One is that, it destroys the microbiome. It changes the ecosystem, especially in the gut. And you got all these superbugs that are coming to a theater near you, like C. difficile. Like, the most dangerous place to go is into your hospital. What? Isn't that the safest place to be? No, it's the most dangerous place to be. Okay? Now, I'm not saying don't go to the hospital. I'm not saying that. But that's how you get C. difficile. Well, they use so much antibiotics. And look, I'll never convince them. So I'm not trying to convince mainstream medicine, but they over-clean there. There's no friendly bacteria left. They over-sterilize. Look, and you'll never get, jeepers, if we don't. I didn't say don't wash your hands. I feel sorry for people working in hospitals. And I think I mentioned it yesterday. They're using these hand sanitizers like there's no tomorrow. I never seen anything like it. It's squirt, 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 and it's 100 times a day. You're killing all your good bacteria, plus you're putting estrogen, xenoestrogen. Somebody asked a question yesterday, Dr. Martin, does those soaps contain estrogen? No, not estrogen, but they contain xenoestrogens. They look like estrogen. Your body thinks it's estrogen. That's what it's a what we call xenoestrogens. Okay? It's not estrogen, but your body thinks it's estrogen. And that's all these forever chemicals. And so, it's crazy. Review acetaminophen, the link between Tylenol and autism. Here was the article itself. The link between Tylenol and in brackets acetaminophen and autism in the developing nervous system. Mm-hmm. Not every child that is given Tylenol will get autism. Obviously not. But it's something worth looking at. And parents ought to know it. And babies need to be on probiotics. I hate to say it, but in the world we live in, yeah. You need bacteria, guys. You need the good guys on your side. And I'm very adamant about that. But even if you're healthy, you need probiotic. It's just the world in which we live. We live in a different world. We live in a world that has got about 100,000 chemicals that have been developed since World War II. We live in a toxic soup, guys. Can't see that. I'm looking here in this room. I don't see no toxins. Do you? Yeah, probably even in the furniture. It's formaldehyde and you know what I mean? Like it's everywhere. Everywhere. There's a lot of plastic. How are you going to get away from it? I don't know. You can't. But you need to protect yourself from it. That's why I'm big on probiotics. Guys, I've been singing from the same song sheet for a long time. The same. Because I wrote those books a long time ago on chronic fatigue. And like I said, I was a why guy. Why all of a sudden my practice, and we just, by the way, talked last night with a couple of ladies that I'm going to do a seminar with next week here in Sudbury, next Tuesday night. And we just had a chat. And I gave them a little bit of my story. I said, well, my practice, I specialized in chronic fatigue syndrome. Not that I meant to in a way, but, when you write a book about it, I traveled the world to talk about chronic fatigue. And with a good publicist, it got well known. And then I was in practice and people came from all over the world to see me, to be tested and to do, to take the protocol that I recommended for it. And one of them was probiotics. It got to the point I had my own made. Yeah. He just couldn't find enough of the good strains that in my research were absolutely needed. And anyway, and then then in probably 2005 or maybe a little bit later than that even, I started to see a real shift in what we call metabolic syndrome. All connected, by the way. Because I was one of the first guys mentioning that in chronic fatigue syndrome, in fibromyalgia, there was adrenal exhaustion. That's what I called it. Adrenal gland exhaustion. People thought I had two heads on. What a quack. What are you talking about, adrenal? Nobody even tested adrenals. Nobody even talked about cortisol in those days. And today, right? Cortisol, stress, and the huge factors. That changes your microbiome too, by the way. Cortisol, stress, inside the body. When you never get into rest and digest, you're into the fight or flight, and that'll drain the adrenals. Anyway, I got to do teaching on that again. It's been quite a while. We got to do that. A lot of people are very interested in that. But that's my story in my practice. Okay. Friday is question and answer Friday. Okay, so send in your questions. Don't put your questions up here, but I can't see them. And I can't guarantee I'm even going to look at the scroll. Sometimes I do, but most of the times I'm not answering questions. I can't see your question when it's scrolling by while I'm doing my live here. I love questions, by the way, guys, but to make sure they get on our program on Friday, info@martinclinic.com, info@martinclinic.com. Okay, send an email, and then it's going to be on the program. Okay, and we want that. We appreciate that. I wish I could bring you on live. I used to. Radio show was live. We didn't even screen the calls. Sometimes we should have. Okay? But anyway, I'm used to it. Put me on the spot. Okay, guys, we love you dearly and sincerely. Talk to you soon.